And joining me on the broadcast tonight is Lord Meghnad Desai, author and Professor Emeritus of the London School of Economics. He joins us live from New Delhi. Lord Desai, good evening and thanks so much for speaking with us here on WION. Some are calling this the most shrill and acrimonious campaign in recent history. Do you think that's been a fair assessment of this long drawn-out 7 phases of campaigning which finally has ended, 7 phases of polling which will end tomorrow?
Yes, I think I would agree. It has been a rather long campaign. The weather has been very hot. And I think because the end was more or less certain that Modi will come back, there's a lot of acrimony and anger in the opposition. Because at one stage they thought they'd be able to shake him off. But as far as I can see, the expected result is going to be Modi back with either a small majority or a small shortfall to a majority, but BJP NDA will return to power. I think for the next time, the Election Commission ought to shorten the number of sort of polling events and try and sort of wrap it up a little bit quicker than they have done this time.
All right. We spoke about, the shrill and acrimonious atmosphere that has sort of existed in this election. Like you mentioned, it sort of went up a notch in the last phase. And surprisingly enough, it wasn't just the Congress this time which had, loose comments being fired off from people like Sam Pitroda. But the BJP also had to, come out in defense following comments made by Sadhvi Pragya Thakur. And those, of course, were retweeted, if you will, by certain members of the party. Do you think, though, any of these factors is going to have an impact on what the voters eventually decide in tomorrow's last phase?
I doubt it very much. I think voters have made up their minds, and as and when they vote, they also think of practical issues like toilets and jobs and inflation and things like that. So those things have been already delivered or not delivered, as the case may be. So voters will have made up their minds. And voters don't read these newspapers and all that as much. I think it is somewhat, I would say, shocking what Pragya Thakur said. And I think she was quite rightly reprimanded by the chairman of the party and by the Prime Minister. But I think she is a loose cannon. If she gets into Parliament, she is going to be very hard to control. But I think that kind of statement cannot be tolerated in Indian democracy.
Fair enough. The factor of the so-called third front, Lord Desai, a lot's being made of it in the last couple of weeks, more so with, some major names coming up. We know for a fact that Chandrababu Naidu met with Rahul Gandhi today. There is talk of him cobbling together as much, let's say, firepower against the BJP machinery. How important do you think that factor is going to be in this election?
I think, they are sort of hoping against hope that somehow the arithmetic will go so bad for BJP. BJP may get, they think, less than 200, and Congress may get more than 100, in which case there might be a very close run sort of final result. And in that case, they have to get together. Since they actually don't like each other, they have to get together under condition that they'll all cooperate and behave themselves. And obviously, the state chief ministers like Chandrababu Naidu, Mamata Banerjee, so they are obviously hoping that they'll get together and capture power at the center. I don't think it'll happen because one of the very interesting phenomena we'll have to observe tomorrow is what happens in West Bengal. I am hoping that West Bengal elections will not be violent tomorrow. But I think the fact that West Bengal's the hegemony of Mamata Banerjee is going to be challenged, and we expect the number of seats that she gets will be much less than she's hoping to. That's going to be a big blow to the federal front or the third front, because she was expecting to get 30 plus seats and lead the coalition. That is going to be difficult now.
Okay, I'm predicting that you are suggesting that there are going to be a couple of surprises for us come May 23rd. Before I let go of you, though, one last question. Broad strokes, when we're looking, on the eve of the last phase of the election, looking back at the last month and a half or so, do you feel that this election result is also going to be in many ways a sort of referendum on the idea of India that's been held by Indians across the spectrum?
I think in a way, yes. It's a referendum on the old idea of India more than the new idea of India. Because I think the old idea of India has almost been abandoned by Congress itself. But a victory for BJP once again will make it clear that the old Nehruvian secular India and all that is now no longer in favor. And whatever the idea of India that BJP tried to establish, could be Hindu Rashtra or whatever it is, it will have to struggle for acceptance. But that is the big news, is that there is now a shift in the idea of India. A new idea of India is about to be propagated, and we shall see how well it does. India is a difficult country to give a single idea to, and so I think we will see how successful the BJP is in arguing for a Hindu nation.
That's interesting, considering the identity of one person seems very central to all of this, and that is, of course, the Prime Minister Narendra Modi. We leave it at that. Lord Desai, thanks very much for joining us this evening and sharing your perspective with us as we are winding down on this last and seventh phase of the elections. Remember, that happens tomorrow. In fact, Lord Desai is going to be back with us on WION along with a number of our special guests for WION's Poll of Polls. Remember, the last and seventh phase of the election takes place this Sunday, that is tomorrow. We're going to be bringing you all the news, views and analysis as the exit polls become available. Watch India Votes with our bespoke panel of experts as we crunch the numbers to get you the big picture.